Change is afoot. Saturn is in Pisces, and I have a webinar on Wednesday. If you can't make it, you can purchase tickets to the replay. It will be available for you. And guiding you through your Saturn return, through working with Saturn in your chart specifically, and how you can utilize this very potent energy. First and foremost, Saturn is a gas giant. We might have this idea that it's this big rock in the sky that's going to devour us if we don't work quick enough, if we don't work, if we don't do the duty. But what we are lacking in understanding is the power of Saturn ascending. I really believe that I connected with some heavenly body in a very light dream state the other night, and it might have been Saturn. Saturn is a feminine energy, so Saturn really wants for us to work with our creative skills, our creative insight, and work in passion, because when we are in that stance of eternal love for what it is that we're doing, that passion that feels like we can keep doing this forever, that's when Saturn rewards us. So if you're currently in your Saturn return or approaching it, what you can do to work with Saturn is to dive in. I can't tell you how many times people told me before I really started sharing my spiritual gifts that I wasn't dreaming big enough. It was a recurring theme. So I would make like a Pinterest board or something and, get the energy started to begin manifesting. But what I didn't see and what I couldn't see was I have Saturn in Aquarius. And coming into this energy of being open and willing to share my beliefs and my feelings, my inner chatter, my inner dialogue was too loud. It didn't allow for me to get quiet. Like I had a practice of yoga that I kind of tossed aside once I moved to New York. And then when I started my Saturn return, that is when I left New York. I came and moved to Maui. I was working remotely, so I had financial structure and stability for the first time really ever, because up to my Saturn return, I was traveling pretty extensively in Europe with not a lot of money, but I was gaining a lot of insights. I was reliving these bohemian motifs from past lives. And what Saturn did was it kind of made me flush out all of these willingness within myself to connect with really toxic people, really draining people who weren't really living up to their soul mission. They just wanted to take. They saw what I had been cultivating, the wisdom and the intellect, and I was in a martyr state. I was willing to save people and sit with people and not really develop community. It was a part of me that needed to get wiped out. So you might see this with like recurring themes in like partnerships, relationships, where people like, they don't understand how you work or why you work the way that you do, but they want a piece of it. Like they just want in, but they're not contributing. So what we have to ask ourselves right now with Saturn and Pisces is where are there people in your life who are judging your emotions and judging your process, and how can you start to detach from those people? Which let's brainstorm together, because it's pretty intense. Like what happens when we are, Poliahu, I love that she came out to guide us. So Poliahu means cool, calm, and collected. Prayer, meditation, solitude is also a theme that comes out of the Mana card deck. And I sense that for those of us who are wanting to manifest something like a home, relationship, a better connection with our work, how we're earning our income, there's a need for us to start doing more and to start being more. But what does that mean? So we have these tools, the internet, that can connect us to people, and it gives us an opportunity to really find our voice and to start learning about who we are. Well, at the same time, I know it because I follow AI Report, which is a newsletter that you can get daily, and it talks about things going on politically with AI. I love AI. I grew up with Mac computers. I started using one when I was 2. The thing is, as we open up and share on these various social media platforms, this is what robot learning is taking in. So if you're afraid of AI, you better just move out to the forest and forget about computers altogether. But if you're open to developing yourself, your voice, your capacity, find a way to have like a private page to where you are just sharing. Like you make videos, CapCut is free. Yes, they're taking in what you're making and they're using it to program AI, but that ought not to be something that scares you, because we have to remember we are souls having a physical experience in this physical density. And just like math, we didn't create math. Math existed. It's just speaking to the sacred geometry of this reality that we live in. AI is also something that just needed us to start creating it, but it's going to develop on its own. I read yesterday that like artists are taking their work down from social media, and I'm like, that might be the reason why they're doing it, is out of this fear that the reasons for them painting, like their whole reason of creating art, was based in something that was past life. It was karmic. It was stored in the system that needed to get fleshed out. Because I'll never take my work down from social media. AI can replicate my works, and I will replicate from AI. I'm not going to return all my paints and supplies to the art supply store. It's been something that's come up for me because I was so nomadic for so long, and I would travel with my paintings. I would roll them up and ship them. That's how I traveled to Maui, is I rolled my work up, put it in boxes, and mailed it. And I came here with like a single suitcase of clothes because I was like, oh, it's going to be tropical. I don't need any of these clothes. I was wrong, because it actually gets cold here. You can get snow. Haleakala is one of the coldest places with the highest altitude, at least in the Hawaiian Islands. I know it's not for the world, but it's really like a high altitude. And my Saturn return was one of those things where like I thought I knew so much, but it's like what I didn't know was so hidden from me. Like it was completely out of my ability to see, because I also have some planets around my Saturn that they bring up fears, because it's so close to what I did in a past life or the lifetime that I'm healing, which is also something that I find to be interesting. Like when the lifetimes we remember are the lifetimes that we're healing. It's not that they were like the most recent one, because nothing is linear. Time is not linear. And I feel that Saturn, the timekeeper, is just making sure that we understand that we have to heal certain patterns that our soul has been repeating over lifetimes and just accumulating. Like, I just want to see, like, in my mind, a sand, like one of those like things that shovel up a bunch of stuff at like construction sites. Let's say it's filled up with sand, like the sands of time. You can't do anything with that to gather anything else up until you find a place to put all of that sand. So it's like all of these emotions and energies that goes into my painting. Like that's what I paint about, is my feelings, my dreams, my experiences. And there is a vault of works that I have and works that I've sold that are in other people's homes. And most recently a work that got lost, which might have been stolen in transit. But it's one of those things where it's like, if I put so much mental energy into that, I miss out on the passion that can be devoted into my project. So for those of you all who are interested in purchasing my Saturn webinar, whether live or the recording, just know that you have to look at Saturn in your chart, but it forms aspects, which is another like facet of understanding Saturn and what it means, because Saturn does involve karma, which again, karma is the feelings that are stored. They are hardwired in us that we keep having to repeat through various relationships. So let's say you work in an ice cream shop, and in your past life, you worked as a vendor somewhere, like in a public place, and it got robbed. You will have all of these fears creep up, and Saturn might even have that happen to you in this life, because you have to neutralize the feelings around that experience. So let's take this into something lighter. Let's say that you babysat. I've been babysitting since I was like 8 years old. And let's say you watch children, you took care of children in a past life. Saturn will have you do that until you can't do that anymore if it's not your passion. If it's not what you came here to do, you're going to have all of these experiences with new souls that you were connected to in past lives that remind you of your need for structure, of your need for boundaries, of your need for self-support. And oftentimes what I'll find is that depending on which house Saturn is in, that opposing house is what can allow for you to release the energy. So I really have like an unlucky, or it's not in exaltation like aspect to Saturn. And it's around getting to this place where I am more nurturing to myself and give the same quality of nurturing to myself that I do the world, which I was teaching at a school, and at the point of where this was a Waldorf school too. They were like, we need you to switch every hour on the hour to a different grade, a different class. And I was like, WTF, I'm a 6'2" projector. Like, people were actually projecting their energy onto me. And because of the potency of my care and nurturing, the children were like, yeah, we want you around. But it was just one of those things where I had to have that integrity and that structure to say, okay, can I do this for the next 10 years? No. And I had the support from my husband to be like, okay, well, let's move on. So with Saturn and dealing with Saturn, that is this gas giant. And it's a slower moving planet. So it's one of those things that between the ages of 28 and 32, Saturn will continue to give you an exit. Like Saturn will say, this is the next exit. But for those of us who are lacking in the faith, I love this because this actually, it's surging on the uprising wave of love. It looks like there is an exit here, or you could stay in orbit. You could stay in this slow moving orbit with so many exits, and what you love is actually the key out. So for those of you guys interested, there's a link below to purchase your seat to my Saturn webinar, again happening this Wednesday at 8 a.m. Hawaiian time, but there will be a purchasable option for those of you guys who can't attend but want the tea on Saturn and what it does within your chart. I look forward to this event, and just know that I have so much more to share. Please subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment. Maybe if you know your Saturn placement, let me know where that is, because I can start to work with that energy in the upcoming readings. Send you guys so much aloha. Bye.